Well, here is one of the most powerful builds against bosses for any difficulty. It's a Devastator build, you bleeding bastards. I stumbled upon this build completely by accident. During the stream I was testing some other stuff for a different build, but that build had the same setup as this one. I've changed to Devastator weapon just to see what I can do with it against a certain boss on Nightmare difficulty, and it turned out to be instant jackpot. This is the setup that I'm using. For handgun, use anything that you want. I like to use on Nightmare difficulty Howler's immunity mod slotted into an open mod slot because it is such a good damage reduction ability that is quite necessary for Nightmare, because on that difficulty enemies do a ton of damage. Devastator is sole focus for this build because of its weapon mod that puts bleed status effect on enemies. With this exact setup, that bleed goes all the way up to 4000 damage over 20 seconds. This is insane amount of damages, and that is especially useful against Nightmare difficulty bosses, because while bosses are bleeding you can focus on destroying ads or some specific things that you need to do in order to get the job done. Melee weapon that I'm using is Guardian X because of its Spirit Engine effect. Set that I'm using is Labyrinth set because it grants plus 50% damage to weapon mods, and Skewer is weapon mod. Next to that I'm also using Galenic Charm that increases weapon mod by 30%. That all stacks, and that is why we have such high damage output from this weapon mod. Two rings that I'm using are both damage reduction rings. These are very necessary for Nightmare difficulty, but if you're playing on hard you can switch them for something else. However, with this exact setup, if you have Howler's immunity and if you went same trait path like I did and got all the damage reductions, you can get up to 55% damage reduction while Howler's immunity is active, and that is huge and helps tremendously on Nightmare difficulty. This is my trait setup. Most important are the typical ones. You can copy this same setup for yourself, but if you want to switch things around, don't forget to always have damage reduction traits for Nightmare difficulty, mod power generation, and also evocation to increase mod damage. Overall, this is your typical mod damage build. You can switch mods around and play with whatever you like, but versus bosses, Devastator is for the most part the best choice with this particular build. It truly shreds bosses even on Nightmare difficulty. Fantastic thing about this high damage bleeding effect is that while boss is bleeding you can take care of ads or anything else that you need to take care of during the fight without needing to worry that your DPS is suffering in the process. Anyway, that's all for this build. Thank you for watching and see you soon.